Welcome to the quiet side of the forest, the part most people never think about, though it's always there beneath their feet. You don't need to know a thing, just settle in and let the pace slow a little. Imagine the forest not as a place you have to enter, but as something that opens around you, gently, like a breath. Above, the trees may sway and whisper, but below, the earth holds a steadier rhythm. Calm, patient, unhurried. This is the world we're going to explore together, the hidden networks, the soft exchanges, the ancient threads that have been shaping forests since long before the first leaf ever caught the sun. There's no rush here. Just follow the feeling of sinking a little deeper into the soil's warmth, letting the forest reveal itself one quiet layer at a time. Long before forests resembled anything we know today, the soil was already alive with delicate fungal threads exploring the darkness beneath ancient landscapes. In those early epochs, the land was a quiet frontier bare rock, thin sediments, and shallow pools of mineral-rich water warmed by a young sun. The air carried the scent of volcanic dust and the faint tang of minerals settling into the newborn clay. Into this stillness crept the first fungal filaments, pale and searching, threading their way through cracks in the stone. They moved slowly, guided by gradients of moisture and the faint chemical traces of the earliest plants clinging to the shorelines. These plants were fragile things, their bodies thin and tentative, shaped by a world that had not yet learned how to cradle life. Their stems bent easily in the wind, and their roots clung to the shallowest layers of soil, drawing what little nourishment they could from sediments still forming. Rain fell differently then, heavy with minerals, carrying the taste of a young planet still cooling from its creation. Lightning storms stitched the sky with raw energy, and each strike altered the chemistry of the ground in subtle ways. The earliest plants responded to these shifts with slow, uncertain growth, their leaves trembling at the edge of survival. They were pioneers in a landscape that offered no shelter, no canopy, no accumulated wisdom of ecosystems past. And yet, even in this stark environment, life pressed forward, reaching for footholds wherever it could. The fungi sensed these faint attempts, detecting the chemical signatures of struggling roots long before the plants themselves were visible above the surface. It was a partnership born not of intention, but of opportunity, a quiet alignment of needs that would shape the future of life on land. Over millions of years, this alliance deepened, spreading across continents as soils thickened and climates shifted. Even now, when you walk through a woodland, the ground beneath your feet holds echoes of that ancient pact, a whisper of the first threads that dared to explore the barren earth. The fungal threads still weave through the soil, forming networks that branch and braid through the darkness, carrying nutrients and signals in slow, deliberate patterns. It is a quiet intelligence, older than roots, older than leaves, older than the idea of a forest itself. As forests evolved, the fungal networks beneath them grew more intricate, forming a kind of living architecture that mirrored the complexity above. These networks are made of hyphae microscopic filaments that branch and fuse, creating pathways for nutrients and chemical messages to travel. They extend far beyond the reach of any single tree's roots, stitching the soil into a shared space where information flows freely. Scientists have observed that these networks can transmit electrical pulses, slow and subtle, but unmistakably patterned. These pulses drift along the hyphae, like faint lightning traveling through a buried sky, rising and falling in gentle waves. They are not thoughts, not in the way animals think, but they are responses, measured, deliberate, and surprisingly complex. When moisture shifts or nutrients accumulate, the pulses change rhythm, as if the network is adjusting its internal map of the soil. Some researchers compare these patterns to the firing of neurons, though the analogy is imperfect. In animals, electrical impulses leap across synapses in fractions of a second, sharp and bright like sparks. In fungi, the pulses drift, lingering in the hyphae as if considering their path, spreading outward in slow, contemplative waves. They respond not only to nutrients and moisture, but to vibrations in the soil, to the faint heat signatures of burrowing insects, even to the chemical traces left behind by passing animals. Each pulse carries a fragment of information. Tiny shifts in pH, hints of decay, whispers of distant roots, and the network weaves these fragments into a broader understanding of its surroundings. The result is a kind of sensory tapestry, a map of the forest's underworld that is constantly redrawn as conditions change. Though the tempo is slow, the complexity is immense. A quiet orchestration of signals that allows the fungi to navigate the darkness with surprising precision. In the darkness beneath the forest floor, these pulses form a quiet language, one spoken in currents and chemical whispers. They help the fungi decide where to grow, where to retreat, and how to support the trees above. Over time, this constant flow of information creates a dynamic awareness of the forest's needs, a slow, patient sensitivity that guides the network's behavior through the changing seasons. When you imagine the forest's subconscious, this is its foundation, a web of living threads, always sensing, always adjusting, always quietly shaping the world above. The network beneath the forest floor is not static. It grows, retracts, and reconnects in response to the changing seasons and the shifting needs of the plants it serves. In winter, when the forest above lies hushed beneath frost and snow, the fungi continue their slow, deliberate work. The soil cools, its particles tightening as if bracing against the cold, and the spaces between them shrink until only the thinnest films of water remain. Frost forms in delicate lattices along the edges of stones and roots, each crystal a tiny architecture of winter's touch. Microbes slow their movements, earthworms retreat deeper underground, and the forest's heartbeat seems to fade into a long, suspended breath. But beneath this stillness, the fungi continue their work. Their hyphae slip between ice crystals, navigating narrow channels where liquid water still clings to the soil. Enzymes adapted to the cold continue to break down leaf litter, though at a gentler pace, releasing nutrients that the fungi store within their cells like quiet promises for spring. Even in the deepest freeze, faint chemical signals drift through the network, reminders of roots above, of trees waiting for warmth, of the forest's slow pulse continuing beneath the snow. Then, as spring sunlight softens the soil, the network awakens with a quiet urgency. New roots push downward, and the fungi reach toward them, forming fresh connections that will support the year's growth. This seasonal rhythm's slow contraction, gentle persistence, sudden expansion, gives the forest a sense of breath, a pulse that continues even when the world above seems still. And yet, the forest's life is shaped not only by the turning of seasons, but by the disruptions that arrive without warning. Even disturbances, storms, fires, or the fall of an ancient tree do not break the network entirely. Disturbances leave abrupt shifts in the soil. Heat, ash, water, torn roots, and the fungi adjust their patterns around these new conditions. After a fire, the ground may be warm and ashy, rich in minerals, but stripped of organic structure. After a storm, the soil may be waterlogged, compacted, or torn open by uprooted roots. Each disturbance leaves a signature, a pattern of disruption. The fungi respond by slowing their growth in damaged zones, sending exploratory hyphae along the edges of the disturbance to assess its extent. They may thicken their threads along the edges of the disturbance, creating temporary footholds that help the network navigate the unsettled ground. Over days and weeks, the network begins to stitch itself back together, forming new pathways that bypass the damage. This process is slow but steady, guided by chemical gradients and the fungi's innate ability to perceive opportunity in chaos. This resilience gives the forest a kind of memory, a way of holding onto structure even when the visible world above is altered. It is a slow, patient intelligence, one that does not panic or rush, but simply adjusts, thread by thread, until balance is restored. As the network expands, it sometimes merges with neighboring fungal systems, creating vast interconnected webs that can span entire hillsides. When two networks meet, the encounter is slow and exploratory. The soil between them becomes a zone of quiet negotiation, where chemical signals drift like faint introductions. Each network releases compounds that reveal its species, its health, and its metabolic tendencies. Some fungi are immediately compatible, recognizing shared ancestry or complementary strategies. Others are cautious, sending only a few hyphae forward at first, testing the chemical landscape for signs of threat or competition. In rare cases, incompatible fungi may erect chemical barriers, releasing compounds that discourage further approach. But when compatibility is found, the meeting becomes a moment of expansion rather than conflict. This merging is not just structural, it is informational, allowing each network to inherit the other's understanding of the soil. This fusion is delicate at first, a tentative handshake in the darkness, but over time it strengthens into a seamless union. In some forests, these merged networks grow into clonal colonies so large they reshape the ecology of entire valleys. A single fungal individual may stretch beneath acres of trees, its presence steady and ancient, guiding the forest's internal exchanges with a consistency no single tree could achieve. To the trees, this vast organism feels like a quiet companion, a presence that links them to distant neighbors they will never touch. Through these mergers, the forest becomes more than a collection of individuals. It becomes a community woven together by threads older than the soil itself. The fungal network does not spread evenly across the forest floor. It responds to boundaries and transitions with a sensitivity that mirrors the forest's own shifting character. At the edge of a clearing, the hyphae gather into resilient patterns that help them hold their place amid the shifting light and temperature. These boundary zones act as testing grounds, places where the fungi must adapt to harsher conditions while still maintaining their connections to the shaded interior. Along stream banks, the network behaves differently. The soil is cooler and richer in organic matter, and the constant movement of water creates a dynamic environment where nutrients drift in and out of reach. Here, the fungi spread into broad, flexible sheets that follow the shifting contours of the water's edge. Their hyphae trace these contours, weaving through mosses and decaying wood in patterns that shift with the flow of the stream. Rocky outcrops create yet another kind of boundary. The soil is thin, and the spaces between stones form narrow corridors that challenge the fungi's ability to navigate. In these places, the network becomes sparse but persistent, sending out long, exploratory threads that probe the cracks and crevices for pockets of organic matter. These threads may remain dormant for months or years, waiting for a fallen leaf or a burst of moisture to bring new life to the barren ground. Even fallen logs create micro-boundaries that shape the network's behavior. As the wood decays, it becomes a rich reservoir of nutrients, drawing fungi into its interior. The hyphae form dense mats beneath the bark, breaking down the wood and releasing its stored energy back into the soil. These decaying logs become hubs of activity, places where the network thickens and pulses with biochemical life. Through these varied landscapes, the fungal network adjusts its form and function, responding to the forest's boundaries with a quiet adaptability. Each edge becomes an opportunity, each transition a new terrain to explore. The fungal networks do more than connect trees. They shape the very soil that supports the forest. As hyphae move through the earth, they bind particles together, creating stable structures that hold water and resist erosion. Under a microscope, These structures resemble tiny woven baskets, but the comparison barely captures their intricacy. Each filament curves and loops with purpose, wrapping around mineral grains in patterns that seem almost mathematical. Some hyphae form tight spirals that grip sand particles like fingers, while others stretch into long, graceful arcs that bind clusters of clay into stable aggregates. Between these threads lie mycorrhizae caverns, spaces no larger than a grain of pollen, where water collects in shimmering droplets. These droplets become miniature reservoirs, sustaining microbes and root hairs during dry spells. The architecture is so fine that even the slightest shift in moisture causes the entire structure to flex, expanding or contracting like a living lung. This microscopic world is constantly in motion, shaped by the fungi's slow, deliberate weaving. The fungi also break down organic matter, unlocking nutrients that would otherwise remain trapped in fallen leaves and decaying wood. Their enzymes dissolve the tough fibers of bark and leaf litter, transforming them into soft, dark humus that enriches the forest floor. In doing so, the fungi create a continuous cycle of renewal that sustains the forest year after year. This quiet work happens out of sight, but its effects are everywhere. In the richness of the soil, the health of the trees, and the resilience of the ecosystem. When you imagine the forest breathing, this is part of that breath. The slow, steady transformation of matter into nourishment, guided by the unseen hands of the fungal web. Within this subterranean world, certain fungi form hubs, dense clusters of hyphae, where multiple networks intersect. These hubs act like crossroads, but they also function as reservoirs of biological activity. Within them, the density of hyphae creates pockets of warmth, even in cold seasons, allowing enzymes to work more efficiently. Microbes gather in these zones, feeding on the organic compounds released by the fungi and contributing their own chemical signals to the mix. Tiny soil animals, springtails, mites, and nematodes move through the hyphal clusters like travelers passing through a bustling marketplace. Each organism leaves behind traces of its presence, and the fungi incorporate these traces into their understanding of the soil. Over time, the hubs become not just intersections of pathways, but centers of learning, where the network refines its map of the forest's underground world. If one pathway becomes damaged, the hubs help redirect the flow, ensuring that no part of the forest is cut off. This decentralized structure gives the network remarkable resilience. It is not dependent on any single connection. Instead, it thrives on redundancy and flexibility. In this way, the forest's subconscious resembles other complex systems found in nature: river deltas, neural networks, even the branching of lightning. Each part is connected, yet no part is indispensable. When a tree is under strain, the soil around its roots shifts in subtle ways. A faint dryness from a mild drought, the quiet chemical disturbance that follows the first bite of an insect, the muted signature of a tree conserving its strength. These traces drift into the fungal threads, which carry them outward without interpretation, letting the forest adjust itself in small, steady motions. Some trees respond by tempering their thirst, others by sharpening the bitterness in their leaves or tightening the architecture of their cells. The result is a coordinated ripple through the underworld, a slow wave of adjustment that moves from root to root, like a whisper shared across the forest floor. As the network evolved, it became more selective in its connections. Some fungi form exclusive partnerships with specific tree species, creating private channels of communication and resource exchange. These relationships are often ancient, shaped by millions of years of shared history. Some fungi have evolved alongside specific tree species so closely that they can no longer survive without them. Their enzymes are tuned to the chemistry of a single type of root, and their hyphae grow in patterns that mirror the branching of that tree's underground architecture. In return, the tree may rely on that fungus for access to particular minerals or for protection against soil pathogens. This mutual dependence creates a bond that is both fragile and enduring. If the tree disappears from a region, the fungus may vanish with it, leaving behind only faint traces in the soil. But where both persist, their partnership becomes a stabilizing force, anchoring the forest's ecological identity. This diversity of strategies allows the network to support a wide range of plants, from towering conifers to delicate understory herbs. It also creates a mosaic of interconnectedness, where some pathways are intimate and specialized, while others are broad and communal. This layered structure gives the forest both stability and flexibility, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions without losing its coherence. The fungi are not passive conduits. They actively manage the flow of resources and information. They can amplify certain signals, dampen others, and even block pathways that might be harmful to the network. This selective behavior is guided by chemical cues and the fungi's own needs. For example, they may prioritize connections with trees that provide more sugars, or they may limit interactions with plants that offer little in return. This creates a dynamic balance where cooperation is rewarded and inefficiency is minimized. It is not conscious decision-making, but it is a form of regulation that shapes the forest's internal dynamics. Through this subtle management, the fungi help maintain harmony within the ecosystem, ensuring that resources are distributed in ways that support the forest's long-term health. Moisture shapes the fungal network more profoundly than almost any other factor. Even within a single forest, the distribution of water can vary dramatically from one patch of soil to the next, creating microclimates that influence how the fungi grow and connect. In low-lying hollows where water gathers after rain, the hyphae spread widely, forming intricate webs that take advantage of the abundant moisture. These saturated zones become centers of activity, places where decomposition accelerates and nutrients flow freely. On ridges or slopes where the soil dries quickly, the network draws itself inward, forming compact patterns that help it endure the harsher conditions. These dry zones act as barriers, slowing the spread of the network, but also encouraging the fungi to develop strategies for endurance. Some species produce thick-walled spores that can survive long periods without moisture, waiting for the next rainfall to awaken them. Shade gathers coolness and moisture, letting the network grow steadily, while sunlit patches push the hyphae deeper where dampness lingers. These microclimates shift with the seasons, expanding and contracting as the forest responds to changes in temperature and rainfall. Decaying wood creates its own moisture-rich environment. As logs break down, they absorb and retain water, becoming reservoirs that support dense fungal growth. The hyphae weave through the softening wood, breaking it apart and releasing its stored nutrients. Decaying logs become quiet refuges, holding moisture long after the soil dries, and the hyphae settle into them like travelers finding shelter. Through these moisture gradients, the fungal network adapts with remarkable flexibility. It follows the water where it can, endures where it must, and uses every variation in the soil to sustain its presence. Each patch of moisture becomes a small world of its own, shaping the network's form and function in ways that reflect the forest's hidden complexity. Over time, the network's constant adjustments create a living memory of the forest's history. Areas that have experienced drought, fire, or disease carry chemical signatures that influence how the fungi grow and connect. These patterns persist long after the visible signs have faded, forming chemical archives that accumulate year after year. A drought leaves behind salts and stress compounds that linger in the soil, subtly influencing fungal growth for decades. A fire deposits minerals and charcoal that alter the soil's pH, creating zones where certain fungi thrive and others retreat. Even the long-ago presence of a fallen tree can be detected in the distribution of nutrients and the orientation of hyphal threads. The fungi read these archives not consciously but chemically, responding to the residues of past events as if they were fresh signals. In this way, the soil becomes a layered memory, a palimpsest of the forest's history, written in gradients and traces. This memory helps the forest anticipate and adapt to changes, giving it a quiet resilience that spans generations. When you walk through an old forest, you are moving through layers of time, each one held in the soil beneath your feet. The fungal network remembers, and through that memory, the forest endures. This memory is not stored in any single place, nor does it follow a pattern that resembles the way animals remember. Instead, it is woven into the forest itself, distributed across countless threads and chemical gradients. A shift in soil acidity here, a faint residue of past drought there. Each detail becomes part of a larger tapestry that guides how the network behaves. When new roots push into the soil, they encounter this history immediately, sensing the chemical echoes of what came before. A seedling growing in a patch once touched by fire may find minerals more abundant, while another settling into soil shaped by long-ago disease may grow cautiously, its roots probing with extra care. In this way, the forest's memory is not passive. It actively shapes the future, influencing growth, resilience, and the subtle choreography of life beneath the trees. Beneath the forest floor, the fungal threads form a quiet architecture that feels almost intentional in its complexity. Each hypha extends like a searching fingertip, sensing the chemical traces of roots, minerals, and moisture. When a hypha encounters a tree root, it may wrap around it or slip gently between its cells, forming a living interface where nutrients and signals can pass. This interface is not a single point of contact, but a vast surface area created by countless branching filaments. Through this structure, the fungi can absorb minerals from the soil and deliver them to the tree, receiving sugars in return. The exchange is steady and rhythmic, like a slow breath shared between partners. As the fungi grow, they weave themselves into the soil's fabric, creating a network that is both delicate and resilient. It is a structure that adapts to the forest's needs, expanding into rich soil, retreating from barren patches, and always maintaining a sense of connection. In this way, the architecture of the network becomes a reflection of the forest itself, dynamic, responsive, and quietly alive. What makes this architecture remarkable is how seamlessly it adapts to change. When a tree grows rapidly during a wet season, the fungi respond by thickening the hyphae around its roots, reinforcing the pathways that deliver minerals and water. When another tree slows its growth, the network gently retracts, conserving energy while keeping a delicate thread of connection intact. Even the soil's texture influences the design. Sandy soil draws the hyphae into tight braids, while clay encourages them to fan outward in broad, flexible sheets. These adjustments happen slowly, almost imperceptibly. But over years and decades, they sculpt an underground landscape as intricate as any coral reef or river delta. It is a living architecture, shaped not by intention, but by the quiet logic of survival. The fungal network is not a single continuous web, but a mosaic of interconnected systems that shift and merge over time. Some fungi form tight, intimate relationships with specific tree species, creating exclusive channels of communication and nutrient exchange. These partnerships are shaped by millions of years of coevolution, and they allow the fungi to specialize in the needs of their chosen hosts. Other fungi are more flexible, forming connections with many species and acting as bridges between different parts of the forest community. This diversity creates a layered structure where some pathways are narrow and specialized, while others are broad and communal. The result is a network that can support a wide range of plants, from towering canopy trees to delicate understory herbs. Each connection adds to the forest's resilience, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions without losing its coherence. When you imagine the forest's subconscious, this diversity of connections is part of its complexity, a web of relationships that shift and evolve with the seasons. This diversity also gives the forest a remarkable capacity for improvisation. When conditions change, whether through shifting climate, new species arriving, or subtle alterations in rainfall, the network does not rely on a single strategy. Instead, it draws on its many forms of connection, strengthening some pathways while allowing others to fade. A fungus that once specialized in supporting a particular tree may expand its reach to new partners, while generalist fungi may narrow their focus to stabilize a stressed part of the forest. These shifts are not abrupt. They unfold gradually, like a slow turning of the soil's internal compass. Yet their effects ripple outward, influencing which seedlings survive, how nutrients circulate, and how the forest responds to future challenges. In this way, diversity becomes more than a collection of species. It becomes a dynamic system of possibilities, a quiet resilience that allows the forest to adapt without losing its identity. The fungi that weave through the soil move with the seasons, quickening their growth as spring warmth returns, and settling into a steadier rhythm when autumn cools the ground. They drift toward nutrient-rich pockets and away from zones touched by toxins, their paths shaped by countless quiet interactions with microbes, insects, and the shifting chemistry of the soil. Over time, these movements create a living map of the forest's underworld, one that changes as the forest itself changes, a quiet, continuous process, like the forest feeling its own body. The architecture of the network is shaped not only by the fungi, but also by the trees themselves. Each tree leaves a distinct chemical fingerprint in the soil, a quiet reflection of its condition. This creates a dynamic interplay where the trees and fungi influence each other's behavior. This interplay shapes the structure of the network, creating patterns that reflect the forest's internal relationships. It is a slow, subtle process, but it gives the forest a sense of coherence, a feeling that each part is connected to the whole. In this way, the architecture of the network becomes a living expression of the forest's subconscious, a quiet, continuous conversation that unfolds beneath the soil. In every mature forest, there are a few trees that rise above the rest, not only in height or age, but in the depth of their underground connections. These elder giants, often centuries old, have lived through cycles of drought, fire, storm, and renewal. Their bark carries scars from lightning strikes, and their roots twist through layers of soil laid down long before younger trees took root. Over time, the fungi have learned the chemical language of these elders with remarkable precision. They can detect subtle shifts in the tree's health, slight changes in sugar concentration, faint traces of stress hormones, and adjust their support accordingly. The elder trees, in turn, provide a steady flow of carbon that anchors the network, allowing the fungi to maintain long-distance connections that would otherwise be too costly to sustain. In this way, the elders become not just physical giants, but informational ones, shaping the forest's underground dynamics through their sheer longevity. They do not do this out of intention or emotion, but because the network naturally channels resources through the most stable and abundant sources. These trees slowly become anchors of the forest's internal balance, supporting seedlings, buffering stress, and helping the ecosystem weather droughts and storms. Their presence gives the forest a sense of continuity, a steady heartbeat beneath the soil. When one of these giants falls, the network feels the loss, but the memory of its connections lingers in the fungal threads that once wrapped around its roots. The fungal network that threads through a mature forest is not the same one that first took hold when the trees were young. Fungal communities shift as the forest ages, each stage of growth inviting a different cast of subterranean partners. In the earliest years, when the soil is still raw and the canopy thin, pioneer fungi dominate. These species are fast-growing and opportunistic, sending out long, exploratory hyphae that race through the loose earth. They break down the first waves of organic matter, fallen leaves, dead roots, the remains of early colonizers, preparing the soil for the forest that will follow. As the trees grow taller and the canopy begins to close, the fungal community changes. Slower, more deliberate species take root, weaving dense networks that stabilize the soil and form long-lasting partnerships with the expanding root systems. These mid-succession fungi are the architects of the forest floor, building the structures that hold moisture, bind minerals, and support the growing diversity of plants and animals. In old-growth forests, the fungal community becomes even more complex. Ancient trees support ancient fungi species that grow slowly but persist for decades or even centuries. Their hyphae form thick, rope-like cords that stretch across vast distances, linking trees that may be generations apart. These old-growth fungi are masters of endurance, capable of surviving drought, fire, and the slow decay of their host trees. When an elder tree falls, the fungi that once wrapped around its roots do not vanish. They shift their focus, channeling nutrients into seedlings or neighboring giants that still stand. This succession of fungal communities creates a sense of continuity across centuries. Each generation of fungi builds upon the work of those that came before, shaping the soil, supporting the trees, and guiding the forest through cycles of growth and renewal. The network that exists today is not a single organism, but a lineage, a living archive of the forest's past, carried forward in threads that stretch through time as much as through soil. Among the many connections that form beneath the forest floor, some are shaped by a subtle recognition of kin. Trees release chemical signatures through their roots, and these signatures allow them to distinguish between their own offspring and unrelated seedlings. When a mother tree senses the presence of its young, it often directs more carbon toward them, giving them a better chance of survival in the dim understory. This flow of resources is not conscious favoritism, but a natural outcome of chemical compatibility and shared fungal pathways. The fungi themselves respond to these signals, strengthening connections between related individuals and facilitating the transfer of nutrients. This kin-based support helps maintain the genetic continuity of the forest, but it also shapes the physical layout of the underground network. Related trees often grow in loose clusters, their roots weaving through the same patches of soil, their fungal partners forming dense, shared pathways between them. Over time, these clusters become micro-ache communities within the larger forest, each with its own internal rhythms and patterns of resource flow. The fungi reinforce these bonds, strengthening connections where chemical compatibility is highest and allowing weaker ties to fade. The result is a forest that is not uniform but subtly patterned, its structure influenced by lineage as much as by soil and sunlight. In this way, the forest carries echoes of lineage, a soft thread of continuity woven through the soil. Young saplings in the understory often live in deep shade, receiving only a fraction of the sunlight needed to sustain themselves. Without help, many would wither before they ever reach the canopy. But the fungal network provides a lifeline, channeling carbon from mature trees to the shaded seedlings. This transfer gives the young plants a foothold in a world where competition is fierce. In the dim understory, where sunlight filters down in thin, shifting beams, a sapling may go days without receiving enough light to sustain itself. The carbon delivered through the fungal network becomes a lifeline, allowing the sapling to keep its cells alive, repair minor damage, and slowly extend its roots deeper into the soil. As the sapling grows, it begins to contribute small amounts of carbon back into the network, creating a reciprocal relationship that strengthens over time. This early support is crucial. Without it, many saplings would never survive long enough to reach the canopy. The seedlings do not compete alone. They are supported by the collective resources of the community. This quiet nurturing ensures that when an old tree eventually falls, there are young ones ready to rise in its place. The forest's subconscious, through the fungal web, becomes a cradle for new life, holding each generation until it can stand on its own. Some fungi form particularly strong relationships with old-growth trees, creating networks that are stable, long-lived, and deeply embedded in the soil. These fungi often specialize in connecting to the roots of ancient individuals, forming thick mats of hyphae that persist for decades. The stability of these connections allows the fungi to act as reliable conduits for nutrients and signals, supporting the health of the entire forest. Because old-growth trees have extensive root systems and abundant resources, the fungi benefit from a steady supply of sugars, which they use to expand their networks and support other plants. This mutual reinforcement creates a foundation of stability that radiates outward, influencing the structure and resilience of the forest. In places where old-growth trees remain, the fungal networks tend to be richer, more diverse, and more interconnected. These ancient partnerships give the forest a sense of depth, a feeling that its consciousness extends far back in time. Kinship shapes more than the flow of carbon. It also influences how trees arrange themselves beneath the soil. When a tree recognizes the presence of its relatives through chemical cues in the soil, it may alter its root growth to avoid competing with them. Instead of spreading aggressively, it may direct its roots into less crowded areas, allowing its kin to access more resources. This behavior reduces internal competition and helps maintain the health of the family group. The fungi play a role in this process as well, transmitting chemical signals that inform the trees of each other's presence. Over time, these subtle adjustments create patterns of root distribution that reflect the forest's internal relationships. It is a quiet choreography, guided by chemical whispers and the steady flow of nutrients. Through this dance, the forest maintains a sense of harmony, allowing each tree to grow in a way that supports the whole. Beneath the fine threads of the fungal network lies another world, one so small and intricate that it moves at a scale almost impossible to imagine. The soil is alive with creatures that slip between grains of sand and fragments of decaying leaves, springtails that leap like sparks, mites that glide through narrow passages, nematodes that coil and uncoil in the thin films of moisture that cling to mineral surfaces. These tiny animals graze on fungal hyphae, nibbling at the tips or scraping away the outer layers. Their feeding does not weaken the network, it stimulates new growth, encouraging the fungi to branch, repair, and explore. In this way, the microfauna act as sculptors, shaping the architecture of the underground web through their constant movement. Bacteria gather along the hyphal threads as well, forming shimmering films that pulse with chemical activity. Some bacteria hitch rides on the growing tips of the hyphae, using the fungal network as a highway to new territories. Others form partnerships with the fungi, exchanging nutrients or producing compounds that deter pathogens. These microbial alliances create pockets of intense biochemical activity, tiny laboratories where enzymes break down complex molecules into forms the forest can use. Protozoa drift through the soil, water like slow-moving stars, feeding on bacteria and releasing nutrients in their wake. Their presence creates a cycle of consumption and renewal that enriches the soil, feeding both fungi and roots. Even the smallest creatures contribute to the forest's resilience, their movements stirring the soil, mixing organic matter, and opening new pathways for air and water. Together, these microfaunal and microbial communities form a living foundation beneath the fungal network. They are the quiet workers of the forest floor, shaping the soil grain by grain, breath by breath. Their interactions with the fungi create a dynamic, ever-changing landscape, one that supports the forest not through grand gestures, but through countless tiny exchanges that unfold in the darkness below. The exchange of resources between trees and fungi is not one-sided. Trees provide the fungi with sugars produced through photosynthesis, and the fungi respond by delivering minerals, water, and other nutrients drawn from the soil. This exchange is regulated by chemical signals that reflect the needs and contributions of each partner. When a tree is healthy and productive, it may release more sugars into the soil, strengthening its fungal connections. When it is stressed or weakened, the fungi may reduce their support or redirect resources to other trees. This dynamic balance ensures that the network remains efficient and responsive, but it also prevents any single tree from dominating the system. When a tree becomes overly demanding, drawing more nutrients than it provides in return, the fungi may subtly reduce their support, encouraging the tree to adjust its growth or root distribution. Conversely, when a tree produces an abundance of sugars, the fungi may expand their hyphae around its roots, strengthening the partnership. This constant negotiation creates a fluid equilibrium in which each participant contributes according to its capacity. The forest thrives not because every tree is equal, but because every tree is integrated into a system that rewards cooperation and discourages imbalance. The fungi, in turn, use the sugars they receive to grow and expand, creating new pathways that benefit the entire community. This steady exchange forms the heartbeat of the forest, a rhythm of giving and receiving that sustains life beneath the soil. Trees can divine the quality of their fungal partners and adjust their behavior accordingly. When a tree detects that a particular fungus is providing abundant nutrients, it may increase the flow of sugars to that fungus, strengthening the connection. If the fungus is less beneficial, the tree may reduce its support or shift its resources to other partners. This selective behavior creates a dynamic marketplace beneath the soil, where trees and fungi negotiate their relationships through chemical signals. The fungi respond in kind, directing their growth toward trees that offer more sugars and away from those that provide less. This mutual evaluation ensures that the network remains efficient and balanced. It also creates a sense of agency within the forest, where each participant influences the structure of the network. Through these subtle negotiations, the forest maintains a dynamic equilibrium, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. The fungal network is not only a conduit for nutrients, but also a medium for communication. Beneath the forest floor, trees leave traces of their condition in the soil, subtle shifts in chemistry that drift into the fungal threads. When a tree is thriving, it may release signals that encourage growth in nearby seedlings. When it is stressed, it may release signals that trigger defensive responses in its neighbors. These chemical messages create a sense of awareness within the forest, a distributed sensitivity that allows the ecosystem to respond to challenges long before they become crises. When drought begins, the earliest signals come not from the trees, but from the soil itself, subtle shifts in moisture that the fungi detect instantly. They relay this information upward, prompting trees to reduce transpiration even before their leaves begin to wilt. When a pathogen enters the soil, the fungi pick up the chemical traces of its presence and transmit warnings to nearby roots. Trees respond by strengthening their cell walls or releasing antimicrobial compounds, creating a defensive perimeter that slows the pathogen's spread. This awareness is not centralized. It emerges from the countless interactions between fungi, roots, microbes, and soil. Together, they form a network that feels the forest's condition as a whole. Through this communication, the forest becomes a living network of information, guiding the behavior of its participants in subtle and continuous ways. The chemical language of the forest is far more intricate than simple warnings or requests for support. Each tree releases a blend of compounds into the soil, sugars, amino acids, organic acids, and a host of secondary metabolites that reflect its internal state. These compounds drift into the surrounding soil, where they encounter fungal hyphae that act as both sensors and interpreters. The fungi do not translate these signals in any conscious way, but their membranes respond to subtle differences in concentration, composition, and timing. Some compounds act as invitations, encouraging the fungi to grow toward a root that is ready to form a partnership. Others serve as gentle deterrents, signaling that a tree is stressed or unable to support additional connections. Still others influence the behavior of microbes, shaping the bacterial and protozoan communities that gather around the hyphal threads. In this way, the chemical language of the forest extends beyond trees and fungi, weaving through the entire soil ecosystem. The architecture of the fungal network changes dramatically, depending on the scale at which you observe it. Up close, at the level of a few grains of soil, the hyphae appear as delicate threads, weaving through narrow spaces with a precision that seems almost deliberate. They navigate around mineral fragments, slip between root hairs, and form tiny bridges across gaps where moisture has receded. At this scale, the network feels intimate, a quiet choreography of growth and retreat, shaped by the smallest variations in texture and chemistry. Zoom out a little, and the pattern shifts. What once looked like a tangle of threads becomes a series of pathways, some thick and well-traveled, others faint and exploratory. These pathways form the underground equivalent of roads and trails, guiding the flow of nutrients and information across the forest floor. The thicker cords, known as rhizomorphs, act like highways, carrying resources over long distances with remarkable efficiency. The finer hyphae branch from these main routes, exploring new territory or reinforcing existing connections. At the scale of meters or tens of meters, the network reveals yet another layer of structure. Here, the fungi respond to the contours of the land itself. They follow the gentle slope of a hillside, cluster around pockets of rich soil, or skirt the edges of rocky outcrops where nutrients are scarce. In wetter areas, the network spreads widely, taking advantage of the abundant moisture. In drier zones, it contracts into tighter formations, conserving energy while maintaining essential connections. Across entire forest stands, the fungal architecture becomes a map of the ecosystem's history. Old pathways persist like faint scars, while new ones emerge in response to shifting conditions. The network mirrors the forest's patterns of growth, decay, and renewal, creating a living blueprint that evolves with the land. It is a structure shaped not by intention, but by the quiet interplay of opportunity and constraint, a reflection of the forest's complexity written in threads of living tissue. Fungi contribute their own vocabulary to this underground dialogue. They release enzymes that break down organic matter, releasing nutrients that alter the chemical landscape. They produce metabolites that inhibit pathogens or encourage the growth of beneficial microbes. Some fungi even release volatile compounds that drift upward into the air, influencing the behavior of insects or signaling changes in the environment. These chemical exchanges create a constantly shifting mosaic of information. A slight change in pH, a pulse of sugars from a photosynthesizing leaf, a burst of enzymes from a decomposing log. Each event sends ripples through the soil, altering the behavior of roots, microbes, and fungi alike. The result is a form of communication that is not linear but layered, not spoken but felt. It is a language of gradients and thresholds, of subtle shifts that accumulate into meaning. Through this chemical complexity, the forest maintains a sense of coherence. Each participant, tree, fungus, microbe, responds to the signals that matter most to its survival, yet the collective effect is one of balance. The soil becomes a medium of shared information, a place where the forest's many voices blend into a quiet, continuous conversation. Time moves differently beneath the forest floor. The rhythms that shape the fungal network unfold across hours, days, seasons, and centuries, each timescale revealing a different aspect of the underground world. On the scale of hours, the hyphae respond to subtle changes in moisture and temperature, adjusting their growth as the soil warms in the morning or cools in the evening. These shifts are small but steady, creating a daily pulse that guides the network's activity. Over the course of days or weeks, the fungi track the forest's changing needs. A stretch of cloudy weather may reduce the flow of sugars from the canopy, prompting the network to slow its expansion. A burst of sunlight may trigger a surge of photosynthesis, sending fresh energy into the soil and encouraging new growth. These short-term rhythms create a sense of responsiveness, a way for the network to stay attuned to the forest's immediate conditions. Seasonal cycles bring deeper changes. In spring, when the soil thaws and the trees awaken from winter dormancy, the fungi expand rapidly, forming new connections and supporting the surge of growth above. In summer, they stabilize the soil and regulate the flow of water, helping the forest endure heat and drought. In autumn, as leaves fall and decay begins, the fungi shift their focus to decomposition, breaking down organic matter and storing nutrients for the months ahead. Winter slows everything, but the network remains alive, holding the forest's memory in its threads. The forest's underground world shifts subtly between day and night, following rhythms that are easy to overlook but essential to the network's function. During the day, when sunlight fuels the canopy, sugars flow steadily downward through the roots, feeding the fungi and energizing their growth. The hyphae respond with quiet activity, extending their tips into new soil, reinforcing existing pathways, and adjusting their structure to match the forest's changing needs. As evening falls, the flow of sugars slows, and the network enters a different mode. The soil cools, moisture condenses on mineral surfaces, and the hyphae absorb the faint films of water that gather in the darkness. This nightly moisture pulse allows the fungi to repair damaged threads, redistribute nutrients, and strengthen the connections that support the forest. The cooler temperatures also slow the metabolism of many soil organisms, giving the fungi a brief window of relative calm in which to consolidate their growth. Some fungi become more active at night, taking advantage of the reduced competition. Their hyphae extend in long, deliberate lines, exploring areas that were too dry or warm during the day. Others retreat slightly, conserving energy until the next surge of sugars arrives with the morning light. These shifts create a daily rhythm that guides the network's behavior, a cycle of expansion and consolidation that unfolds beneath the forest floor. Even the trees participate in this underground rhythm. At night, when transpiration slows, the roots release different blends of compounds into the soil, altering the chemical landscape in ways that influence fungal behavior. These nocturnal signals are subtle but significant, shaping the network's activity in ways that reflect the forest's internal cycles. Together, these day-night rhythms create a quiet pulse beneath the forest, a steady alternation of energy and rest that supports the network's long-term stability. It is a cycle that unfolds without sound or haste, guided by the interplay of light, temperature, and the slow breathing of the soil. Across decades and centuries, the rhythms become even more profound. The network records the forest's history in chemical gradients and structural patterns, carrying the echoes of past droughts, fires, and storms. It adapts to the slow rise and fall of tree populations, the gradual shift of species, and the long arc of ecological succession. In this deep time, the fungal network becomes a witness to the forest's evolution, its threads stretching across generations in a continuity that feels almost timeless. The relationships within the network are not static. They evolve over time as the forest grows and changes. Trees that were once central nodes may become less connected as they age, or as new trees rise to prominence. Fungi that were once dominant may be replaced by others that are better suited to the current conditions. These shifts create a dynamic landscape beneath the soil, where connections are constantly forming, dissolving, and reforming. This fluidity allows the forest to adapt to disturbances, such as storms, fires, or changes in climate. It also creates a sense of continuity as the network adjusts to maintain balance. Through this constant evolution, the forest remains resilient, capable of responding to challenges while preserving its internal coherence. The fungi that weave through the soil do not grow at random. Their hyphae follow a set of strategies that allow them to explore the underground world with remarkable efficiency. At the growing tips, the hyphae sense minute differences in moisture, nutrients, and chemical cues, adjusting their direction with subtle shifts that accumulate into purposeful movement. When the soil ahead is rich, the hyphae branch frequently, creating dense clusters that take full advantage of the available resources. When the soil is poor, the branches become sparse, and the hyphae extend in long, searching lines that probe the darkness for better conditions. Some fungi use a leapfrogging strategy, sending out fast-growing scouts that race ahead of the main network. These scouts explore new territory, testing the soil for nutrients or potential partners. If they find something promising, the rest of the network follows, thickening the pathways and reinforcing the connection. If not, the scouts wither, leaving only faint traces of their journey. Other fungi build elaborate structures that act like underground highways. These thicker cords, known as rhizomorphs, can transport water and nutrients over long distances, linking distant parts of the forest in ways that would be impossible for roots alone. Rhizomorphs grow with a sense of direction, following gradients in the soil or tracing the edges of decaying wood. Their growth is slower but more deliberate, creating stable pathways that persist for years. The fungi also know when to retreat. When conditions become too dry or too cold, the hyphae pull back, conserving energy while leaving behind spores or resting structures that can survive until the environment improves. This ability to advance and withdraw, to explore and consolidate, gives the network a flexibility that mirrors the forest's own rhythms. It is a form of movement that unfolds without haste, guided by the quiet logic of survival and the subtle cues of the soil. At the heart of the forest's social structure is a sense of interconnectedness that transcends individual trees. Each tree is part of a larger community, linked by the fungal network that weaves through the soil. At the heart of the forest's social structure is a sense of interdependence that threads through every root and hypha. The fungi create pathways for nutrients and signals to flow across the forest. Through these pathways, the forest maintains a sense of balance, supporting its members through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. It is a quiet, continuous process, unfolding beneath the surface in the darkness of the soil. When you walk through a forest, you are moving through a living community, shaped by the unseen threads that connect each tree to the whole. When a tree senses danger, the first shift often happens underground. A leaf may be bitten, a branch strained by wind, or roots brushed by the early signs of drought, and the disturbance travels downward into the soil. The fungi pick up these changes almost immediately, carrying the message outward in steady, deliberate waves. Neighboring trees, even those several meters away, begin adjusting their internal chemistry, strengthening their defenses or tempering their water use long before the threat reaches them. The response is quiet but coordinated, a soft ripple of awareness that moves through the forest's underworld. In this way, the forest's subconscious becomes a protective presence, watching over each tree through the quiet vigilance of the fungal web. The fungal network carries more than warnings. It also conveys subtle shifts in the forest's emotional landscape. Stress leaves its own quiet imprint in the soil, a shift in chemistry that the fungi carry outward. These signals are not cries for help, but they are unmistakable indicators of strain. Some trees may reduce their own growth to conserve resources, while others may increase their support to the struggling individual. This shared response creates a sense of empathy within the forest, a quiet acknowledgement of each tree's condition. The fungi carry these whispers, not perfectly, but faithfully. Through this process, the forest maintains a delicate balance, supporting its members through cycles of stress and recovery. It is a slow, gentle form of communication, one that unfolds beneath the surface in the darkness of the soil. When pests attack, the disturbance reaches the roots long before the insects do. These compounds serve as early warnings, alerting neighboring trees to the presence of herbivores. In response, the trees begin producing defensive chemicals, strengthening their tissues and making themselves less appealing to the pests. This coordinated defense helps protect the forest from widespread damage. It allows the community to prepare. Through this quiet communication, the forest maintains its resilience, supporting each tree through cycles of growth and challenge. The fungal network also responds to environmental cues such as heat and smoke. Rising heat, or the faint chemistry of smoke, alters the patterns drifting from a tree's roots. Some trees may reduce their water usage, while others may increase their production of protective compounds. This early warning system helps the forest respond to fire in a coordinated way, reducing the risk of widespread damage. Air threads reach deep into the soil, where even the faintest shifts leave a trace. Their hyphae extend deep into the soil, allowing them to detect subtle shifts in temperature and chemical composition. Through this sensitivity, the fungal network becomes a guardian of the forest, alerting its members to danger long before it becomes visible. It is a quiet, steady form of protection, one that unfolds beneath the surface in the darkness of the soil. When a tree is cut down or falls naturally, the change is felt not only above ground, but beneath the soil as well. The sudden stillness around its roots leaves a gap in the underground rhythm, a quiet absence that the surrounding trees and fungi respond to instinctively. These trees respond by adjusting their own behavior, sometimes increasing their root growth to fill the gap, or altering their nutrient uptake to compensate for the loss. The network itself may reroute around the damaged area, forming new connections to maintain the flow of resources and information. This response is not conscious, but it reflects the forest's ability to adapt to change. The fungal network acts as a stabilizing force, helping the forest maintain its internal balance even when individual trees are lost. Through this quiet adaptation, the forest continues to thrive, supported by the resilience of its underground connections. The fungal network can transmit signals even when roots do not touch, bridging gaps in the soil like a wireless relay. This ability allows the forest to maintain communication across distances that would otherwise be too great for direct root contact. The fungi extend their hyphae through the soil, forming pathways that connect trees separated by rocks, streams, or other obstacles. These pathways allow signals and nutrients to travel across the forest. The fungi's sensitivity to chemical cues guides their growth toward areas where connections are needed. Over time, these pathways become stable channels of communication, supporting the forest's internal balance. This ability to bridge gaps gives the forest a remarkable resilience, allowing it to adapt to changes in the landscape while maintaining its sense of interconnectedness. The fungi use these electrical pulses to coordinate their own growth and behavior, responding to changes in the environment with subtle adjustments. When a tree shifts its chemistry in response to stress or change, the fungi may amplify the message with electrical pulses, ensuring it reaches distant parts of the network. This dual mode of communication creates a rich, layered system that allows the forest to respond to challenges with remarkable sensitivity. It is not thought, but it is a form of awareness that reflects the complexity of the forest's subconscious. The network's ability to transmit signals allows the forest to coordinate its responses to environmental changes. As the seasons turn, the forest's chemistry shifts in subtle waves that drift into the fungal network. In spring, the network supports new growth by directing nutrients to emerging roots and shoots. In autumn, it helps the trees prepare for winter by redistributing resources and supporting the decomposition of fallen leaves. This seasonal coordination creates a sense of rhythm within the forest, a steady pulse that guides its cycles of growth and renewal. The communication within the network is not limited to warnings or seasonal cues. It also includes subtle signals that reflect the forest's internal relationships. Beneath the forest floor, each tree leaves a chemical imprint that reflects its condition and its place within the community. This awareness allows the forest to adjust to changes in the environment, supporting its members through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. The fungi mediate the forest's internal dialogue. Beneath the forest floor, the fungal network acts as a gentle broker of nutrients, guiding the flow of minerals, water, and carbon between trees in a way that feels almost like a shared breath. When one tree has more than it needs, the excess does not simply accumulate. It moves outward through the fungal threads, drifting toward neighbors that are hungrier or more shaded. This exchange is not driven by intention, but by gradients, subtle differences in chemical concentration that the fungi discern and respond to. The result is a quiet redistribution that smooths out the forest's imbalances, allowing weaker trees to survive and stronger ones to maintain their health without hoarding. Over time, this steady sharing creates a sense of unity within the forest, a feeling that each tree is part of a larger whole. The fungi's vast networks ensure that nutrients reach the places where they are needed most. In nutrient-poor soils, the fungal network becomes even more essential. The fungi extend their hyphae far beyond the reach of tree roots, exploring the soil for pockets of minerals and moisture that would otherwise remain inaccessible. When they find these resources, they transport them back to the trees, exchanging them for sugars produced through photosynthesis. This partnership allows trees to thrive in environments that would otherwise be too harsh or barren. The fungi benefit as well, receiving a steady supply of energy that supports their growth and expansion. This mutual support creates a sense of balance within the forest, allowing it to flourish even in challenging conditions. The network becomes a lifeline, connecting each tree to a broader pool of resources. When storms sweep through the forest, breaking branches and toppling trees, the damage is not confined to the visible world above. When storms injure a tree, the disturbance reaches the soil quickly, altering the chemistry around its roots. The fungi detect these signals and respond by directing nutrients toward the damaged areas, helping the trees recover. This support is not immediate, but it is steady and reliable, unfolding over weeks and months as the forest heals. The network also helps redistribute resources from fallen trees, ensuring that their stored nutrients are not lost but returned to the community. This cycle of damage and renewal creates a sense of continuity within the forest, a feeling that each loss is balanced by new growth. The fungal network helps regulate the forest's nutrient cycles, ensuring that resources are distributed in ways that support the ecosystem's long-term health. When leaves fall in autumn, they begin to decompose, releasing nutrients into the soil. The fungi break down this organic matter, transforming it into forms that trees can absorb. They also store some of these nutrients within their own tissues, releasing them gradually as the forest's needs change. This slow, steady release creates a sense of rhythm within the forest, a cycle of nourishment that unfolds across the seasons. The trees respond to this rhythm, adjusting their growth and metabolism in harmony with the network's signals. Pathogen pressure leaves a distinct chemical trace around a tree's roots. Some trees may increase their production of defensive compounds, while others may adjust their water usage or nutrient uptake to support the stressed individual. This helps protect the forest from widespread disease. The network also mirrors the forest's seasonal rhythms. As spring lengthens the days, the underground chemistry shifts toward growth. In autumn, it turns toward conservation. The fungi respond by adjusting their own growth and nutrient storage, ensuring that the forest remains balanced through the changing seasons. This seasonal coordination creates a sense of rhythm within the forest, a steady pulse that guides its cycles of growth and renewal. The network plays a role in coordinating mast years, when trees produce large quantities of seeds simultaneously. This synchronization increases the chances of successful reproduction by overwhelming seed predators. The trees release chemical signals that reflect their readiness to produce seeds, and the fungi transmit these signals across the forest. The result is a coordinated effort that unfolds over months. The fungal network also helps regulate the forest's water usage. When drought touches a single tree, the soil around its roots changes in ways the fungi detect immediately. The fungi respond by directing water from more hydrated trees toward the stressed individual. This redistribution helps the forest maintain its internal balance, reducing the risk of widespread drought damage. The fungi use their vast networks to ensure that water reaches the places where it is needed most. The network helps maintain the forest's humidity by regulating the flow of water through the soil. The fungi bind soil particles together, creating stable structures that hold moisture and release it slowly over time. This helps the forest maintain a consistent level of humidity, even during dry periods. The trees respond to this stability by adjusting their own water usage. The fungal network allows the forest to behave as a deeply interdependent community, where the well-being of one tree influences the well-being of others. The fungi create pathways for nutrients and signals to flow across the forest, supporting its members through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. This interconnectedness creates a sense of unity within the forest, a feeling that each tree is part of a larger whole. The fungi ensure that resources and information are distributed in ways that support the ecosystem's long-term health. When drought settles over a forest, the first signs appear not in the leaves, but in the soil. The roots begin to sense the slow retreat of moisture, and the change drifts into the fungal network like a quiet warning. The fungi respond with a kind of quiet urgency, redirecting water from areas where it is more abundant toward the trees that need it most. This redistribution is not dramatic. It is a gentle shift, a slow rebalancing that unfolds over days and weeks. The hyphae act like tiny capillaries, drawing water along their threads and delivering it to thirsty roots. In this way, the forest becomes a shared reservoir, where each tree contributes to the collective well-being. The fungi notice the subtle gradients of moisture and adjust their behavior accordingly. Even in the driest seasons, the network continues to function, holding the forest together with its delicate threads. The fungal network can detect drought long before the trees show visible signs of stress. The hyphae extend deep into the soil, reaching layers where moisture lingers even during dry periods. When these deeper layers begin to dry, the fungi detect the change and adjust their behavior. They may slow their growth, conserve their internal water stores, or strengthen their connections to trees that are better hydrated. These adjustments create a sense of anticipation within the forest, allowing it to prepare for the coming stress. The trees respond to the fungi's signals by adjusting their own water usage, reducing transpiration, and conserving resources. This early warning system helps the forest maintain its internal balance, reducing the risk of widespread drought damage. The fungi act as sensitive detectors of environmental change. When floods sweep through the forest, the fungal network is there to regulate the flow of water through the soil. The hyphae bind soil particles together, creating stable structures that resist erosion and allow water to drain slowly. This stability helps the forest maintain its internal balance, even during periods of heavy rainfall. The trees respond to the fungi's signals by adjusting their own water usage, reducing their uptake when the soil is saturated and increasing it when the water begins to recede. This helps protect the forest from the damaging effects of flooding. The fungal network acts as a kind of underground router, directing signals along the most efficient pathways. As floodwaters rise and the soil shifts, the chemistry around each root changes, and the fungi pick up these shifts instantly. The speed and accuracy of this transmission depend on the structure of the network, with some pathways being more direct than others. The fungi adjust their growth to optimize these pathways, strengthening connections that are frequently used and allowing less important ones to fade. This dynamic adjustment creates a sense of efficiency within the forest, allowing it to respond to changes in the environment with remarkable sensitivity. The trees rely on this network to coordinate their behavior, adjusting their growth, metabolism, and water usage in response to the signals they receive. The fungal network can transmit signals faster than root growth alone would allow. The hyphae extend through the soil in all directions, forming pathways that connect trees separated by significant distances. These pathways allow signals to travel quickly. When a disturbance reaches a tree's roots, the fungi detect it almost immediately and begin transmitting it to other trees. This rapid transmission allows the forest to respond to changes in the environment. Trees can notice when their fungal partners are not providing adequate support. When a fungus fails to deliver sufficient nutrients or water, the tree may reduce the flow of sugars to that fungus, weakening the connection. This selective behavior creates a dynamic marketplace beneath the soil, where trees and fungi negotiate their relationships through chemical signals. The fungi respond in kind, directing their growth toward trees that offer more sugars and away from those that provide less. This mutual evaluation ensures that the network remains efficient and balanced. Through these subtle negotiations, the forest maintains a dynamic equilibrium, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. Fungi can punish uncooperative trees by withholding nutrients. When a tree fails to provide sufficient sugars, the fungi may reduce their support or redirect resources to other trees. This selective behavior creates a sense of accountability within the forest, ensuring that each participant contributes to the collective well-being. The trees respond to this behavior by adjusting their own resource allocation, strengthening their connections to fungi that provide more support. This dynamic interplay creates a sense of balance within the forest, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while maintaining its internal harmony. Some fungi act as gatekeepers, blocking parasitic plants from hijacking the network. These fungi detect the chemical signatures of parasitic plants and respond by limiting their access to nutrients and signals. This protective behavior helps maintain the forest's internal balance, preventing parasitic plants from disrupting the network. The trees rely on this protection, adjusting their own behavior in response to the fungi's signals. This dynamic interplay creates a sense of unity within the forest, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. Trees can sense when their neighbors are shading them and adjust their growth accordingly. Dimming light shifts the blend of compounds. A tree lets seep from its roots, reflecting its need for support. Some trees may reduce their own growth to allow more light to reach the shaded individual, while others may adjust their root growth to avoid competing for resources. This allows the forest to adapt to changing conditions while maintaining its internal balance. The fungal network can detect the presence of invasive species and alter its behavior accordingly. When an invasive plant alters the chemistry of the soil around its roots, the fungi often keep their distance, strengthening their ties to native species instead. This selective behavior helps protect the forest from the disruptive effects of invasive species. The trees respond to the fungi's signals by adjusting their own behavior, supporting the network's efforts to maintain balance. Some fungi act like quiet diplomats beneath the soil, mediating interactions between competing species. When two trees with overlapping root zones begin to draw heavily from the same patch of nutrients, the fungi recognize the rising tension through subtle chemical shifts. Instead of allowing the competition to escalate, the fungi may redirect resources, smoothing the imbalance before it becomes harmful. They can strengthen connections to one tree while gently reducing support to another, creating a soft equilibrium that keeps both alive. This balancing act is not conscious negotiation, but it feels like a kind of wisdom, a slow, steady effort to maintain harmony in the forest's shared body. Over time, these fungal diplomats help shape the composition of the forest, allowing diverse species to coexist without one overwhelming the others. Their presence creates a sense of quiet order beneath the soil, a soft choreography of give and take that unfolds in the darkness. The fungal network works to maintain biodiversity by supporting weaker species that might otherwise be outcompeted. In a forest where sunlight, water, and nutrients are unevenly distributed, some species naturally dominate. But the fungi act as equalizers, channeling resources toward plants that struggle in the shadows or in nutrient-poor soil. This support allows rare or delicate species to persist, adding richness and complexity to the ecosystem. The fungi do not choose favorites. They respond to chemical gradients and the needs of the community. Their support creates pockets of diversity where many species can thrive together, each contributing to the forest's resilience. Over time, this quiet nurturing shapes the forest's composition, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. The fungi ensure that the forest remains a vibrant tapestry of life. The fungal network can persist even in winter when the trees above ground are dormant. As the temperature drops and the forest grows quiet, the fungi continue their slow, steady work beneath the soil. Their hyphae remain active, breaking down organic matter, storing nutrients, and maintaining connections between trees. This winter activity ensures that the forest is ready to awaken in spring, with nutrients already distributed and pathways already established. The trees rely on this continuity, adjusting their own behavior in response to the fungi's signals. Even in the coldest months, the forest remains alive, humming softly beneath the frozen ground. Trees can identify nutrient hotspots through feedback from the fungal network. When the fungi encounter a patch of soil rich in minerals, they absorb what they can and let subtle chemical traces drift back toward the roots. The trees detect these signals and adjust their root growth accordingly, extending their roots toward the nutrient-rich area. This coordinated behavior allows the forest to make efficient use of its resources, reducing waste and ensuring that nutrients are distributed where they are needed most. The fungi act as scouts that explore the soil and report back to the trees. The fungi can detect subtle changes in soil temperature, responding with adjustments in their growth and behavior. When the soil warms in spring, the fungi grow more rapidly, forming new connections and supporting the emergence of new roots. When the soil cools in autumn, their growth slows, but their presence remains steady, maintaining the network through the winter months. This sensitivity to temperature allows the fungi to anticipate seasonal changes and adjust their behavior accordingly. The trees respond to the fungi's signals by adjusting their own growth and metabolism. The fungal network aids in coordinating leaf drop in autumn. As the days shorten and temperatures fall, the chemistry of the forest shifts, and the fungi intuits the tree's quiet readiness to let go of their leaves. The fungi detect these signals and transmit them to other trees, allowing the forest to synchronize its transition into dormancy. This coordination creates a sense of unity within the forest, as the canopy shifts from green to gold in a shared rhythm. Some fungi form underground hubs where multiple networks intersect. These hubs act like crossroads, allowing signals and nutrients to be routed efficiently across the forest. They emerge naturally where conditions are favorable: rich soil, abundant roots, and stable moisture. Over time, these hubs become vital centers of activity, supporting the flow of information that keeps the forest in balance. If one pathway becomes damaged, the hubs help redirect the flow, ensuring that no part of the forest is cut off. This decentralized structure gives the network remarkable resilience. It is not dependent on any single connection. Instead, it thrives on redundancy and flexibility. Trees send chemical greetings when their roots first connect to the fungal network. These signals reflect the tree's identity, its health, and its needs. The fungi respond by adjusting their behavior, forming connections that support the tree's growth. This initial exchange creates a sense of welcome within the forest, a gentle acknowledgement of the tree's presence. Over time, the connection deepens, becoming a vital part of the tree's support system. The fungi help the tree integrate into the network in a way that supports the forest's internal balance. The fungal network helps stabilize slopes by binding soil particles together. The hyphae weave through the soil, creating a mesh that holds the earth in place. This stability helps prevent erosion, especially on steep hillsides where heavy rains can wash away the soil. The trees rely on this stability, adjusting their own root growth in response to the fungi's signals. The fungal network holds memories in the way landscapes hold echoes, not as conscious recollections, but as chemical imprints that linger in the soil long after events have passed. When a tree experiences drought, the stress signals it releases seep into the fungal threads, altering their growth patterns and leaving behind subtle traces of scarcity. These traces influence how the fungi behave in the future, guiding them to store more water in their hyphae or strengthen connections to trees that weathered the drought well. Over time, these chemical imprints accumulate, forming a quiet archive of the forest's challenges and triumphs. The fungi do not remember, but their bodies carry the history of the soil, shaping their responses to new conditions. This memory helps the forest anticipate change, adjusting its internal rhythms long before the first visible signs appear. When you walk through an old forest, you are moving through layers of time, each one held in the delicate threads beneath your feet. The fungal network remembers, and through that memory, the forest endures. Even after a tree dies, its presence lingers in the fungal network. The roots may decay, but the chemical signatures they release during life remain woven into the soil. The fungi that once partnered with the tree continue to carry traces of its identity, shaping their interactions with neighboring plants. This lingering presence creates a sense of continuity within the forest, allowing the memory of each tree to influence the community long after its physical form has vanished. The nutrients released by the decaying roots are redistributed through the network, supporting new growth and sustaining the forest's cycles of renewal. In this way, the dead become part of the living, their essence carried forward in the quiet work of the fungi. The forest does not forget its fallen members, it absorbs them, weaving their stories into the soil. This continuity gives the forest a sense of depth, a feeling that each generation is connected to the ones that came before. Some fungi act like archivists, storing chemical memories of past events in their tissues. When the forest experiences stress, drought, fire, disease, the fungi absorb the chemical signals released by the trees and incorporate them into their own bodies. These stored signals influence how the fungi behave in the future, guiding their growth and shaping their interactions with the trees. This archival function creates a sense of continuity within the forest, allowing it to adapt to new challenges based on the lessons of the past. the fungi do not choose what to remember. They simply respond to the chemical environment, absorbing and storing the signals that drift through the soil. Over time, these stored memories accumulate, creating a rich tapestry of information that guides the forest's internal dynamics. Some fungi form underground hubs where multiple networks intersect. These hubs act like crossroads, allowing signals and nutrients to be routed efficiently across the forest. They emerge naturally where conditions are favorable: rich soil, abundant roots, and stable moisture. Over time, these hubs become vital centers of activity, supporting the flow of information that keeps the forest in balance. If one pathway becomes damaged, the hubs help redirect the flow, ensuring that no part of the forest is cut off. This decentralized structure gives the network remarkable resilience. It is not dependent on any single connection. Instead, it thrives on redundancy and flexibility. In many forests, the fungal network acts as a bridge between species that would otherwise live separate lives. Birch and fir, for example, often share resources through the mycorrhizal threads that connect their roots. In summer, when birch leaves gather abundant sunlight, the birch sends excess carbon through the network to the firs resting in the shade. In winter, when the birch stands bare and the fir remains evergreen, the flow reverses. This seasonal reciprocity is not intentional generosity, but a natural outcome of the network's sensitivity to chemical gradients. The fungi detect where sugars are abundant and where they are scarce, guiding the flow in a way that benefits the whole community. Over time, this exchange creates a quiet alliance between species, allowing them to thrive together in environments that might otherwise favor one over the other. The forest becomes a tapestry of interdependence, each species contributing to the resilience of the whole. The fungal network does not limit itself to trees. It connects plants across species boundaries, forming alliances that defy evolutionary distance. Herbs, shrubs, and even grasses can become part of the network, sharing nutrients and signals with the trees above them. This interconnectedness lets the forest behave like a deeply interdependent community, where the well-being of one species subtly shapes the fate of others. When a plant releases signals into the soil, the fungi detect them and transmit them to other plants. This awareness allows the forest to respond to changes in the environment, supporting its members through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. Some fungi specialize in connecting stressed trees, acting like underground medics that respond to distress signals. Drought, disease, or injury leaves a chemical imprint in the soil around a tree's roots. The fungi detect these signals and respond by strengthening their connections to the stressed tree, directing nutrients and water toward it. This support helps the tree recover, reducing the risk of widespread damage. The fungi do not choose which trees to support. They simply respond to the chemical gradients that drift through the soil. Their behavior creates a sense of care within the forest, a quiet acknowledgement of each tree's needs. Over time, these fungal medics help maintain the forest's resilience, ensuring that individual stresses do not become collective crises. The fungal network is crucial in maintaining forest diversity by supporting species that might otherwise be outcompeted. In environments where resources are unevenly distributed, dominant species can overshadow weaker ones, reducing biodiversity. But the fungi act as equalizers, channeling nutrients toward plants that struggle in the shadows or in nutrient-poor soil. This support allows rare or delicate species to persist, adding richness and complexity to the ecosystem. The fungi do not favor one species over another. They respond to the needs of the community. This quiet nurturing shapes the forest's composition, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. Trees can sense when their neighbors are sick and adjust their behavior accordingly. Stress leaves a quiet imprint in the soil around a tree's roots, a shift the fungi identify almost immediately, Some trees may reduce their own growth to conserve resources, while others may increase their support to the struggling individual, creating a sense of empathy within the forest, a quiet acknowledgement of each tree's condition. After a wildfire, the soil's chemistry changes abruptly, and the fungi respond by breaking down the charred debris and guiding nutrients towards surviving trees. When a fire sweeps through the forest, it leaves behind a landscape of ash and charred wood. The fungi respond by breaking down the organic matter, releasing nutrients into the soil. These nutrients are then transported to surviving trees, helping them recover from the damage. The fungi also help stabilize the soil, preventing erosion and supporting the growth of new plants. This quiet work helps the forest regenerate. The fungi detect decomposing matter and redirect nutrients accordingly so that the forest remains resilient in the face of fire. When a tree falls or a plant dies, the fungi begin breaking down the organic matter, releasing nutrients into the soil. These nutrients are then transported to living plants, supporting their growth and sustaining the forest's cycles of renewal. The fungi guide their behavior using their sensitivity to chemical cues. The trees rely on this process, adjusting their own behavior in response to the fungi's signals. This cycle of decay and renewal eventually creates a sense of continuity within the forest, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. When you walk through a forest, it is easy to imagine that each tree stands alone, a solitary being rooted in its own quiet world. But beneath the soil, the fungal network binds them into something far more unified. Signals drift through the hyphae like slow thoughts, carrying information about drought, pests, nutrients, and the subtle rhythms of the seasons. These signals do not form sentences or ideas, but they create patterns, waves of chemical and electrical change that ripple through the soil. Over time, these patterns shape the behavior of the forest, guiding its growth and responses in ways that feel almost intentional. The forest behaves as if it has a kind of awareness, a sensitivity to its own needs and the needs of its members. This awareness emerges from the countless interactions between trees, fungi, and the soil itself, forming a quiet intelligence that hums beneath the surface. No single tree or fungus controls the network. Instead, the intelligence arises from the collective behavior of the entire community. When one tree sends a signal, the fungi transmit it to others, creating a ripple that influences the forest's overall behavior. These ripples overlap, merge, and fade, forming a complex tapestry of information that guides the forest's responses to environmental changes. This distributed intelligence allows the forest to adapt to challenges in ways that no individual tree could manage alone. It is a slow, steady form of awareness, one that unfolds over days, seasons, and centuries. The forest's intelligence is shaped by its history. Each drought, fire, and storm leaves chemical traces in the soil, altering the behavior of the fungi and the trees. These traces accumulate over time, forming a kind of memory that guides the forest's responses to new challenges. When a drought returns, the fungi may strengthen their water-sharing pathways, anticipating the needs of the trees. When a fire sweeps through, the network may respond by directing nutrients to surviving trees, supporting their recovery. This memory is not conscious, but it is deeply embedded in the forest's structure. It allows the forest to learn from its past, adjusting its behavior in ways that reflect the lessons of previous generations. The forest's intelligence is also shaped by its diversity. Different species of trees, fungi, and plants contribute unique signals and behaviors to the network, creating a rich tapestry of interactions. Some species are more sensitive to drought, while others are more resilient. Some fungi specialize in connecting certain trees, while others form broad networks that span the entire forest. This diversity creates a sense of balance within the forest, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions without losing its coherence. The fungi mediate the interactions between species, ensuring that the network remains stable. Far beyond the edges of any single stand, the forest's awareness stretches outward through the fungal threads. Fungal networks can extend beyond individual forest stands, connecting trees across clearings, streams, and even human-made barriers. These connections allow the forest to share resources and information across large distances. When conditions shift around a distant tree, the fungi sense the change and carry that information outward, even across clearings or barriers. This extended network allows the forest to respond to changes in the environment, supporting its members through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. The forest's awareness deepens through its constant dialogue with the creatures that move across its floor and through its soil. Animals, insects, and microbes all contribute to the forest's internal dynamics, releasing signals into the soil that influence the behavior of the fungi and the trees. When insects feed on leaves, the trees release chemical signals that drift into the soil, alerting the fungi to the presence of herbivores. When animals disturb the soil, they create new pathways for the fungi to explore, altering the structure of the network. These interactions create a sense of interconnectedness within the forest, allowing it to adapt to changes in the environment while maintaining its internal balance. Every rise and fall within the forest, every sprout, every fallen trunk, feeds the quiet logic that guides the network. When a tree falls, its nutrients are returned to the soil, where the fungi break them down and redistribute them to living plants. This cycle of decay and renewal creates a sense of continuity within the forest, allowing it to adapt to changing conditions while preserving its internal harmony. The trees rely on this process, adjusting their own behavior in response to the fungi's signals. Long before the seasons fully turn, the forest feels the shift, carried first through the fungi's sensitive threads. The fungi can detect subtle shifts in temperature, moisture, and chemical composition, responding with adjustments in their growth and behavior. As spring softens the soil, the hyphae follow the thaw, extending toward the season's new roots. Autumn's cooling soil quiets their pace, but the network holds its shape through the darker months. This sensitivity allows the forest to anticipate seasonal changes and adjust its behavior accordingly. The trees respond to the fungi's signals by adjusting their own growth and metabolism. Beneath the soil, a steady exchange of chemical traces creates a shared awareness among the trees. Beneath the soil, each tree leaves a shifting chemical imprint that reflects its condition and its place in the forest. The fungi detect these signals and transmit them to other trees. This awareness allows the forest to adjust to changes in the environment, supporting its members through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. The forest's resilience comes from its constant reshaping, connections forming, dissolving, and reforming in response to need. The fungal network is constantly changing, forming new connections, dissolving old ones, and adjusting its structure in response to the needs of the forest. This dynamic behavior allows the forest to respond to challenges in ways that no individual tree could manage alone. The trees rely on this adaptability, adjusting their own behavior in response to the fungi's signals. Over time, this dynamic interplay creates a sense of resilience within the forest, allowing it to thrive in the face of change. As we rise back toward the surface and leave the quiet world beneath the forest floor, I hope you carry a little of that stillness with you. The sense of slow rhythms, patient connections, and the ancient calm that holds everything together. If you enjoyed wandering through this hidden landscape with me, I'd love for you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you'll know when the next journey is ready. It helps more than you might think, and it lets this little community keep growing, thread by thread. Until next time, take care, rest well, and may the forest's quiet wisdom stay with you a while longer.